But that's like, is this going to be the cover image? I'm going to leave for a sec. Oh, these are glittery too. Do you see that? This wasn't a good idea. Glitter everywhere, which is glitter. I think that if you send a greeting card with glitter in it, that's a mortal sin. This is just straight. It's Tab, a rookie of the year, and then, defeated sin and death, and was the MVP. I was suspended twice in high school for being an idiot. But they're like, oh, we loved you, and you were here. You were so great. You were such a great student, and we knew. I'm like, no, you didn't.
Welcome to the Exposing Catholic Show, where we expose the lives, interactions, and stories of Catholics. Our guest today is Father Eric Garris. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you guys for coming here. It's good to be with you guys.
Yeah.
And good to chat today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start off with not really getting into your story right off the rip,
Sure.
but why do we call priests father?
Okay. Yeah. So
That's a good one.
I think obviously, like, I don't approach priesthood from the perspective of just like, a lot of people ask me, like, as a priest, like, what do you do? Priesthood, I don't think is just a summary of tasks, but it's primarily relational, right? So like, you're in relationship with God's people as not necessarily a biological father. Like, I've not birthed any of the people to whom I'm called to minister. But there is this sense of fatherhood being that which leads and guides and strengthens and accompanies and protects. And I think of even like my own dad, like, I mean, that's my understanding of fatherhood was that. And I wear a ring. My dad passed away a couple years ago. I wear his ring. I always say that people see this and I see this, like, and it's a call to sacrifice. It's a call to, I think of countless times in which, like, as a kid, my dad would make sacrifices for us, his children, so that we could have life. As a priest, that's what I'm called to do, to make sacrifices. And particularly in this role, I'm learning a new sense of fatherhood in being a vocation director. Because previously I'd been in parishes for 5 years, and, you kind of, you're father to the masses and offering guidance and support and, accompaniment through various life events and different things. But now it's much more directive, where, like, the men whom I'm accompanying in discernment, I feel a more individualism, towards them. And it's not like I become their dad. They still have their parents. But it's much more like, as father, I'm supporting you and walking with you and journeying with you, and hopefully strengthening you and your faith along the way. So
Yeah.
So why do we call priests fathers? Because they are. Because they acted that way.
What do you do as a vocations director then, since it's like so different from working at a parish?
So I'm a diocesan priest. I'm a priest for the Diocese of Cleveland. I was ordained 2017. I spent 4 years at St. Raphael in Bay Village, and then 1 year at St. Gabriel in Concord. So people always say, well, are you a parish priest? I'm like, no, I'm still a diocesan priest. But as vocation director, there's a lot of different things. Primarily, I'm called to kind of promote, go around. I'm in a lot of the high schools, grade schools, parishes, preaching on and teaching about vocations, our universal call to holiness, and particularly how, yes, we're all universally called to be holy, but as individuals, God individually calls us as individuals to a life of holiness, particular to us in our heart and our disposition. So that's kind of like the vocation promotion thing. And then there's the vocational discernment thing. And that's more individually walking with people who are coming to know more deeply who is it that God calls me to be and how is it that God calls me to love. And for many of them, it's from the perspective of maybe there's a thought, there's an inclination, there's been an invitation in prayer by other people to consider a religious vocation, be it priesthood or religious life.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of helping them in that way. Discernment-wise, we got all of our wonderful books here. I don't know if you can see them, but St. Ignatius of Loyola talks a lot about discernment, principles of discernment, and he says be aware, understand, take action. So what do I do? I help people be aware, understand, and take action when it comes to vocational discernment. So, yeah. And everything else included in that as vocation director. It's fun. I always say it's a lot more, I was talking to the masses. It's much more like micro than macro, like where it's like individualism, much more with people. It's a lot like, I'm a huge sports fan. It's like kind of having courtside seats, that kind of watching the way that God is working in people's lives. So it's a privileged place to be. It's fun. And I get to be a priest, and hopefully, I get to be a priest. Yeah.
Is there a difference between vocation director? Well, obviously there is, but vocation director and spiritual director.
Yes.
And are they kind of combined? Like, are you giving spiritual direction too?
Yes and no. So we talk about what's called the internal form and the external form. As vocation director, I operate in the external form. So I typically don't hear the guys' confessions who I'm journeying with, just because I don't want there to be like I want to respect the sacraments, and I want to respect like their individual faith journey. Obviously, like a vocation is heard within prayer, an experience within prayer, and so it's unpacking that. But it's also, as vocation director, I also have to be doing like candidate assessment and different things, and so it's working with the guy and coming to know the fullness of who he is. As we're at the seminary now. The 4 pillars are the human, the spiritual, the pastoral, and the intellectual. So I'm always kind of weaving in that world. But it's like a lot of times people are coming after experiences in prayer, and we're unpacking that. And I may be giving some direction in the sense of, it might be helpful to pray with, the calling of the disciples, or it might be helpful for you to, check out this or check out that, or in prayer, a lot of times I'll have the guys, men and or women, reflect on John 1, which is the calling of the disciples, and that question of like, what are you looking for? What do you desire? So it's unpacking prayer. It's more, it's both. It's a weaving. It's the both and. It's not totally direction, but it's not totally not direction. It's not one direction. No, it's not. Yeah.
You're a fan of One Direction?
No. I just know that they exist. So my mind works on like free flowing, like word association. So we're talking directions, and I'm like, direction, One Direction. Yeah.
What's it like being at the seminary? And I don't know, because it seems like a school, but also not like a school. And like these are just normal guys. Like some of the people are people I went to high school with.
Right. Yeah. So I'm glad you said that. So first of all, it's weird because I've been in this role for like a year and a half. So there was 6 months of transition where I worked with Father Mike McCandless, who was the previous vocation director, and then became the director when he moved on to become a pastor. I never thought I'd be back here. Like that's the weird part about it is like sometimes I look, I'm like so just like logistically, like the faculty lounge is right down the hall. And I'll like go in there and eat the chocolate covered almonds that were like, as a seminarian, like you don't go in there. Like you're faculty. You're not faculty. Like remember as a kid growing up, there was a show called Recess that was on like one Saturday morning, and like there was this mystique about by like the teachers' lounge. The kids didn't want to go in there, and they had like all these like tanning beds and different stuff. And like as a seminarian, I thought like, dude, that's the faculty lounge. But now I'm like, man, I'm in here. I'm eating the chocolate covered almonds. So it's weird in that regard. Yeah. It's also weird because a lot of like, and this is just personally, like the priests who were faculty when I was here are now my colleagues. And I'm like, hey Father, like so and so. It's like there's a more relational aspect to like now I'm working with these guys. Yeah. But it's also amazing, like to see like last year's group is previously the 6 months before, I was meeting some of the new guys who are coming in, and you kind of know them, but you don't. And also being removed from here for a couple years, like you kind of know the guys, but you don't. But to really see like the amazing nature of like the Lord working in these people's lives, where there's still guys here who I was in seminary with, and you're like, man, I remember you when you were a freshman or sophomore at Borromeo, and now you're you're doing it, man. You know, and there's been growth here, which is one of the amazing things about the Cleveland Seminary is, we have our own diocesan seminary, and guys 8 years behind you and 8 years ahead of you. And so there is like a really amazing, fraternal relationship that's built with those guys. So like I'm my office is here and I'm ministering here, but I live at the cathedral downtown, and like Father Sean Ralph, who's the rector of the cathedral, he was ordained my first year of seminary. So like you know each other, you know, and then like the guys who are here now, you know each other. Yeah. And we call each other here, and they call each other brothers. Like there's a strong fraternal aspect to the guys who are here, because like you mentioned, like guys you went to high school with. Like I went to Lake Catholic High School. Go Cougars. Don went to NDCL. There's some bad blood there. But like out of high school, I was the only guy who entered seminary for a long time. And so there's a sense of like, am I weird because I'm going to the seminary? Yeah. But like, I don't know anyone else. Oh no, I'm with 50, 60 other guys who are also in that same circle. And I think of even like the friendships that I have with priests and different guys. Like my friends are very different than me. But like what's most important in my life is also what's most important in their lives. So it's like, yeah, of course we're going to be buddies. Of course this is going to, and you see that in the guys here.
We've got something special for all our Catholic organizations. Now, before you skip past this part, it's not an ad. It's more like an incredible opportunity to take your digital presence to the next level. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. Something only for our podcast listeners. We, DM Productions, have a 2-day Catholic social media makeover course. It's an online course specifically made for Catholic organizations. It will take your social media to the next level. And we make it easier than ever with our step-by-step video walkthroughs, cheat sheets, customizable templates, and more. Catholic organizations, let's start creating the quality and results that secular businesses have, but with the depth and beauty of Catholicism. Oh, and did I mention the price? $700. But remember I said I was going to let you in on a little secret? Use code DMPodcast to get it completely free. No credit card required. Just pop that code in and you're all set. Head over to www.dm.productions/social media makeover, or click the link in the description. Now back to the show.
You said the one thing, you said that they're normal guys, which I always tell the seminarians, other people are allowed to say that, but you're not allowed to say that. Because what do normal people do? They don't say that they're normal. What do crazy people do? They say that they're not crazy. So like, I'm not crazy, but you're like, something in my mind is ticking that this guy's crazy. Like if someone's like, hey, I'm normal, you're like, something in me is ticking that you're not normal. Like, hi, how are you, Father Eric? I'm normal. Nice to meet you. You're like, I don't know about this. So
yeah, to put that out there is like red flag.
Right. You're like, what about
That's
you?
That's assumed already. You don't have to clarify.
That's why I say normal people don't say that they're normal. It's just intuitive. So you can say that, but they can't.
Yeah.
So that works.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. You have permission. You have my permission to say that the seminarians are normal. Okay. They don't have permission to say that they're normal.
Father Jacob said they're mostly normal.
So, yeah. And he is mostly normal too. One of my best friends. And I don't have the fire-breathing lion sweatshirt bought at a gas station like Father Jacob does. I prefer the much more classy quarter zips over fire-breathing lion hoodies. Maybe. I mean, he's a good friend of mine. Maybe we'll
You got together. The cool socks though.
Yeah, I do. I've got the I Love Jesus socks. So there's not a lot of room for like flair in black with black. Yeah. With black, you know. I never wore black pants until I got ordained Fun little fun fact.
You're like a jean guy?
No, like greens and khakis and blues.
Okay.
And just because it's color, you know? So this is a real death to self. That's what it is, like, so.
Is that type of stuff required, or how does that?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, there's no requirement. Like, I don't always wear my clerics. Like, if I'm out to dinner with
crazy
buddies.
because that just feels illegal.
Yeah, it's always funny.
I shouldn't see you.
Yeah, it's like seeing a turtle without its shell. Like, or like whatever. Like, but like yesterday was my day away, and I had the opportunity. I went home. I hung out at my mom's. I made dinner. Jeans and flannel. I go to a lot of baseball games. Shorts and a t-shirt, like, and so it's not required, but it's much more like the uniform. Like Dom mentioned, your dad's a firefighter. Like, he's not wearing his get up all the time, but when he's, in that role, that's an identifying thing.
Yeah.
And most of the time I'm in clerics, like, just because it's what I do, it's who I am. And it identifies to people like I'm here. And I also think too, like it reminds people of the presence of, it's not that I'm God, but like it's sacramental in some ways, like that it points to something beyond. I think when people see a priest, they think of the church, they think of Christ, they think of God, they think of experiences, whatever it may be, for better, for worse. There are rules like regarding canon law does say like what like official like dresses of a priest. In the United States, it's pretty much black with black. I was at World Youth Day this summer, and like you kind of get like clerical shirt envy, because you're like, dude, that's a really cool, like those guys got blue, like what's their story, so but like in Europe and different places there's different norms. I did buy, when I was over there, because it was so hot, it was like 100 degrees like everywhere and every day, so the one day I wore like blue shorts and this gray clerical shirt that I bought in Lourdes that was more like a polo shirt that it was like this full button-up thing. And we ran into this group of kids from St. Louis, and like this girl did not believe I was a priest because I was wearing like blue golf shorts and a gray clerical shirt with chacos.
Who does this guy think he is?
Yeah, she's like, so like, what are you? I'm like, I don't know. What are you? Kind of thing. So, usually I'm dressed like this.
Got it.
What's crazy is that I didn't realize that those are not always a full shirt.
Yeah.
Some people have like, it's like a little bib.
Yeah. So that's when things get fancy. So there's like, in my mind, there's different levels of like dress, right? So like, today's just a normal day.
Yeah. You got your formal wear.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And usually the formal wear is the rabbi, which is like the shirt front that just buttons in the back. This is just straight. It's tab, right?
That's
so like,
crazy.
yeah. And the funny thing is, I have 4 nephews and 1 niece, and like it's like a game. try to steal. But then you also get like the occasional like I don't know what the look's called, but it's the more like, relaxed, and approachable.
That just feels like illegal to me.
No,
like,
but it's like like if I'm driving, I'm opening, and whatever, and just making it easier, because it's like, okay, Mike, I can breathe a little bit, like when, like,
yeah, because you don't like wearing ties. It's like, I can't
this
breathe.
is like, it's buttoned all the way up. And the crazy thing about these shirts is like, I'm gonna have to button this now. No, I'm gonna drop my mic. Is like, the ones I buy, I get from a place in Rome, because
fancy.
Well, no, this is the crazy thing.
Oh, okay.
They're cheaper and thinner cut, because the clerical shirt companies, big, we can call them big clerical, like big pharma, but like I guess it'd be big
cleric,
whatever. They make shirts for their kind of clientele, and most priests are a little bit, not as slender as some, you know? And so like they're these huge, we joke, they're called, the other brand is like Toomey. We call them roomy Toomies, you know? So, but the ones I get are more like Euro cut. And they also last. So typically what happens is like, I'll order some and I'll call other guys and be like, hey, I'm getting shirts. Do you want any? And they come in like 2 days. So it works well.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to wait a couple months to get a shirt. And
No, they come. Yeah. I'm going to button this back up. You guys,
Okay.
I'm going to drop the mic. Yeah, hold that.
I got
Thank
this
you.
for
Thank you.
Yeah, that just feels illegal to me. Like,
Well, just the
What are
fact
you
that
doing
you
there?
mentioned wearing shorts.
Yeah.
It feels weird.
All right, we're back.
got it.
Now I'm back at it.
So, going with more of the seminary, and I mean, like you guys got a basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
you
yeah.
play the seminarians.
Priests versus seminarians, right?
That's right. And then they also play each other. So like
And does the bishop play?
the bishop does not play.
Darn.
So we talk about I mentioned the 4 pillars. So like, what are the guys doing here at the seminary? They're praying, they're studying, they're serving, and they're growing in their understanding of self and their humanity. We talk a lot about like the goal is self-awareness, self-knowledge, self-acceptance, self-gift. That's vocation. This is who I am given to you. This is vocation. This is who I am given to you.
Yeah.
You can't give unless you know who you are. And so it's growing in their humanity. St. John Paul II in his, Pastoris Dab Vobis, 1994, I will give you shepherds. He introduced this new dimension of priestly formation, of human formation. So what do priests need to be before they need to be human beings? And they need to have a well-developed humanity, one that's able to relate with others, one that's able to understand the human condition and their own humanity. And so the guys grow in their humanity through playing basketball with one another. They have downstairs, we've got what's called the Cask and Cross, which is like one of their hangout places where, you know, they're playing pool and they're hanging out with each other and they're going down there and they're studying. And we've got the workout room, we've got the music room. So like they're human beings, and they're recognizing that like their humanity, and St. John Paul II says like our humanity should be a bridge to people meeting Christ, not a barrier. And so part of that is having a well-developed understanding of your humanity. As a priest, who am I ministering to? Human beings, you know, and like, what do I need to be able to do? Relate to the human beings that I'm ministering to. So it's not just like having hobbies, but it's recognizing the gift of our humanity and how Christ is using my individual humanity to reach out to other human beings. The bishop doesn't play basketball. He comes to the game. So once a year the seminaries play each other, and then once a year the priests play the seminarians. So it's coming up on January 28th, maybe. It's been a sad reality the past couple years. The priests, I think we're still up like in the past. I think we have 3 victories, they have 2. But the odds are stacked against us, because here's the deal. Every year we get older. Every year they get younger. Every year we get younger when they give us their oldest guy, when they gets ordained and becomes a priest. So, I mean, it's a win, win, lose, win, lose, win, win. I don't know where they all fall in, but I just feel like that's the appropriate amount of wins and losses.
But it's a fun time, right?
Yeah, usually. Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah,
like
my problem is I'm overly competitive.
Yeah.
And so it gets kind of punchy. Like, you know,
A priest knocks somebody out.
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, you like live it, like, at least for the seminarians, like they play twice a week, and like you're living with each other and you know each other, and you know, like sometimes you box someone out a little bit harder or set a harder pick just based on whatever was going on in the week. You're like, you know, so let them know that you're there and you're alive. But yeah, I mean, the guys play there's 2 racquetball courts. When I was here, I played racquetball 5 days a week. And still to this day, I'm not playing basketball every day, but like try to work out, try to take care of myself. You know, like I need to be able to do the things that I do. And in order to do that, I need to
be healthy.
I always say the best advertisement for the priesthood is a happy, healthy, and holy priest or seminary. You know, and so they're doing it.
In the workout room, do you guys have like gold-plated Bibles that you do curls with?
No. There's there are some like things down there, like, you know, you've got the cross and gains for glory, or I don't know if that's that was just a talk that someone had given. But no, when I was here, the big thing was like P90X and Insanity. So like we would all like get together and like before the days of like Exodus 90, you know, like we were banded together as brothers, and, you know, P90X and, you know, doing, who was that guy? Tony, I forget his name. I don't know. Like, but that became the thing. And then it's also the cool thing where like some of the guys are new to that, and you're spurning them on and helping them out. And, you know, so you take on that dynamic of being together as you're doing this. It becomes something, you know, community thing. But no gold-plated Bibles. Yeah. Unfortunately.
That could be a new addition.
That could be. Yeah. If there's any donors out there that like to donate 50-pound Bibles, let me know. I can put them in the seminary.
I feel like I haven't been around that much, but as we're walking through the seminary, it's like, whoa, that's a cool room, and those are cool windows and different things. Are there things that people don't really know about the seminary, like hidden rooms or like underground tunnels or something?
That you, pull and door
no, there's no like speakeasies. Where like you're like pulling. The first rule about it is you don't talk about it. No, the campus is huge. So historically, it initially was like a farm, you know, back in the day. And there's an old like abandoned farmhouse up in the hill. There's a root cellar like that they would built into the hill, like so like you have all these like weird like old, you know, things. But then after the farm was sold, it became the convent for the Good Shepherd Sisters, which is a cool thing because it used to be, if you come in, I don't know where you came in at, there's a statue of Christ the Good Shepherd, which used to sit up on top of the hill. But the Good Shepherd Sisters were a group of sisters that tended to the lost sheep. So they lived on the one half of the building, and then the other half of the building was a home for wayward girls. Basically, if you're a young woman in the 1930s, 40s, got pregnant, like you would be hushed off to these places, which is the reason why, if you look here, we have a courtyard. You have all these courtyards throughout because the women weren't allowed to go outside. They weren't allowed to be, they came here to get out of like the public eye. And so that was their way of going outside.
What the heck?
Yeah. Because it was, you know, scandalous, or it was like it was a shame to the family. So, you know, go off. And so the sisters then moved out of here, and then the seminary moved in, and I like to joke and say now it became a home for wayward boys, but it's not. But the cool thing is it's all kind of come full circle with the Good Shepherd, because our chapel is the building's been under renovation for like the past 4 or 5 years. There was the Heart of a Shepherd campaign, which like renovated the student rooms and did a bunch of stuff and helped fund the priest retirement and student loan relief of the guys. But the chapel, all of the windows are original to when the sisters were here, and there's a ton of things of the Good Shepherd. Priests were called to be shepherds to the people. But there's a really interesting image of Mary, the Good Shepherdess, which you don't often see. And so the chapel, and I can show you guys before you roll, is going to be renamed Mary, Mother of the Good Shepherd, because it's Mary who, you know, within her heart and within her life helped form Christ the Shepherd. But as priests, it's also her maternal care for her sons, you know, spiritual sons too. So that's a cool thing. There is, I think one of the weirdest is that down in the cask and cross if you walk through it, there's all these signs that say like nuclear fallout shelter. It's an old abandoned like bowling alley that they ripped up because it used to be like same thing with the girls weren't allowed to leave, the seminarians weren't allowed to leave here in like the 50s and 60s. So because of that, you had a barbershop, which we have now. Father Pat Anderson, his grandpa was a barber and donated all of his stuff. So like there's a barbershop here. It used to be this back wing back here was like the dental chair. They would bring in a dentist. They would bring in a doctor because the guys weren't allowed to leave. And like they had, it was
which
this,
is not the case anymore.
Not the case anymore. No, but they would bring in a dentist. They would bring in a doctor. They had a bowling alley. They had like everything you needed was like here. So now, I mean, some of that stuff is still kind of there, but not in the same way as like, if you would have, I mean, these things wouldn't have existed, but like this type of thing, like you would never come in. There used to be as of like 3 years ago, they just got rid of it. There was a phone booth that was right outside this room here because that's where the guys would go to call home. Like you didn't have your own phone. You didn't so there are all these weird kind of vestiges of the past. I'm trying to think of other weird rooms. There was for a while before the renovation. So now with the renovation, there's 2 seminaries under one roof. Borromeo is the college. St. Mary's is the graduate school. The college guys have bedroom, shower, bathroom, like you share it with someone. The St. Mary's guys have their own. It used to be we had like, a shower room and there were individual shower stalls, but there was this door that you would open and it used to be like they expanded the bathroom. So they just put up like cinder blocks behind this door. So like you opened this door and it went to nowhere. It was like the weirdest thing, like it was just on the other side of it was the showers that they had built, but they just walled up this window. So that's probably the weirdest. I'm trying to think of other, I don't know. It's a huge building. And so it's full of big, strange things. Yeah.
Can we get into your story and dive into what family life looked like as a kid and then moving up into like middle school, high school?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up here, like we're in Wycliffe. My home parish is Our Lady of Mount Carmel, a mile and a half down the road. My claim to fame, 18 years of Catholic education on Euclid Avenue in the city of Wycliffe, Ohio. So from K to 8th grade at Mount Carmel, and then from first year Borromeo all the way through. But like growing up, faith was important for my family. I have an older brother, older sister. My mom and dad both went to Catholic schools growing up. So like it was a part of their family upbringing. I hesitate to say as a child, I was pretty like all over the place because as an adult, I'm pretty like all over the place. But I grew up playing like a ton of sports and basketball and baseball and swimming and soccer and like everything. And I was always on the go. But like the one non-negotiable was that on Sundays we were going to be at Mass. And so there was something about Mass that always as a kid, like I was never really bored at church. Because it was really something that really did quiet me. Like there was a sense of like mystery and awe and wonder. Like I remember being in the first or second grade and we did like Stations of the Cross with benediction. And I remember our teacher telling us like, all right, so Father's going to, take this big gold thing and make the sign of the cross with it, but that's not Father, that's Jesus blessing you. And because that's Jesus. And I was like, dude, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard. And I thought there was a great sense of pride of like, dude, Jesus is at my church, and I remember that like vividly, I remember those moments. So that was good in the same way that like faith was the sense of mystery. There was also a great humanity to the faith for me, and priesthood. So when I was a little, I wanted to be a priest, just because I was like, it looked fun and exciting. And I always joke and say that like being the youngest of 3, no one ever listened to me. And I thought like, well, maybe if I become a priest, people will listen to me. It's not why I became a priest. Or I was always like, all right, is the priest going to be wearing green this week or purple or pink? I'm sorry, rose, what's going to happen? So there was always an intrigue there. luckily too, like my grandma, my mom's mom, was a very faithful woman. I oftentimes think of like, no one is, there's no such thing as a solitary Christian, and I think of like the prayers of my grandma and just different things. But she was the housekeeper of a rectory for a while. And we had gotten to be family friends with the priest who was the pastor. And so as much as like the priesthood was this like reverent thing behind an altar blessing me with a monstrance, it was also this thing on my back porch at family events, drinking a gin and tonic and smoking a cigarette. Like that was the priest, I'm like, oh, so the humanity was there as well as the mystery of it. But as I got older, like that idea of priesthood kind of waned, and I wanted to be a professional athlete, and I wanted to be this and that, like all these great things that most young boys want. I went to high school. I went to Lake Catholic High School. Go Cougars. I went to Lake Catholic and, played basketball there, was involved in student government stuff. And for me, it was like this time of, in some ways, it's always a time of like self-discovery. It's the weirdest thing, like 14 to 18, like there's a tremendous amount of like growth and personality, like all of that. And, so I sought like, this is who I'm going to be. I'm going to be Eric, the fun basketball, whatever. And my identity was really much wrapped up in like those things, or it was wrapped up in like what I was doing, living for the weekend and doing all this. And it's like, there's no real sense of like joy or satisfaction. I remember everyone's like, oh, this is gonna be so great. Like, why am I not happy? Yeah. But things kind of shifted. Like going into my senior year of high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had thoughts here and there of like, I hated school. My mom and dad had a rule that like, if my GPA dropped below a 3.0, I needed to go to the public school. So like, I knew that like, all right, A in religion and C in math balanced to a B, so it was like this like constant game of going back and forth. But also like, I didn't know what I wanted. I thought about, I saw the movie The Guardian with Ashton Kutcher, where he was like a Coast Guard rescue diver. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'll do that. Like, that looks fun. Like, save lives and jump out of airplanes. That's what I want to do. But I didn't know. And so going into my senior year, I remember coming home one day and my parents were sitting down and they're like, Eric, we need to talk to you. And my first thought was like, what did you find out that I did that you weren't supposed to find out? And they had shared with me that my dad had been doing some medical stuff and going to the doctor and different stuff, and he was diagnosed with cancer, stage 4 cancer, and was 17 years old. And I remember asking like, so 4 is the best, the worst, or like the worst? I'm like, but everything will be fine. And they're like, well, they're kind of giving him 6 months to live. And I'm like, whoa. And like as a 17-year-old, I didn't know how to process that. Like this world that I had systematically built up had just kind of crumbled. And it was basically built up on like maximize pleasure, minimize pain. There's a tremendous amount of pain now, so I don't know what to do because, so I was dating a girl at the time, didn't want to talk to her about my emotions. Had a bunch of buddies, didn't want to talk to them about what I was feeling. Didn't know how to talk to anyone about like, hey, like that was every conversation. Like, what's up with you? What's up with you? I don't know. What's up with you? Like that's high school, like boys communicating. Oh my gosh. I wasn't going to be like, hey, I'm really hurting. Cause like, there's real pain in my life. But I went to mass one Sunday, really was kind of going, for the most part. And I walked into mass and was immediately intrigued by what I saw because there was, a priest there who was young and happy. And I thought, what's up here? Like, and it's not that I had met priests before that were miserable, but like never were they like young and full of life. Like they were just father, and the priest had given probably one of the corniest homilies I've ever heard. So like, I teach homiletics here and I'm in school for preaching.
Homiletics, that's a fun
homiletics,
word.
the art of giving a homily, or but the homily was it was after Bob Barker had retired, So you guys you're younger than me. Bob Barker, Price is Right. Before Netflix, you had to watch what was on TV, which was The Price is Right.
I have seen that.
Okay, good. Everyone also knows him from like Happy Gilmore, where he's like, the price is wrong, Bob, and punches him. But with the homily, it was, even though Bob Barker's gone, God still calls us to come on down. And I'm like, this is blowing my mind, So I actually emailed the priest. It was Father Andy Turner, who's now the rector of the seminary. And I'm like, hey, it was the first time in my life where I thought like God has a plan for my life. And I didn't know what it was. And so I met with him, and he like asked me, he's like, well, the same question Jesus asked the disciples, what are you looking for? What do you want? I'm like, he's like, what do you want from life? And the only thing I could tell him was like, I'd like to go skydiving. That was it. He's like, okay, like I can't help you with that, but like
anything else?
Yeah. He's like, I'm starting up with a youth group. Would you want to be involved in that? And I'm like, I remember internally, I'm like, no.
It's not really what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for youth group kids to help me out. But I started, he's like, well, I think it'd be good. We're doing this retreat planning thing. And it was with St. Helens and St. Mary's and Chardon and all these different, kids. And I remember going to the first meeting and walking in and being like, they were youth group kids, like I wasn't. I was cool, but I remember seeing them and
you're so real with it. Like, you don't even
yeah, they're like, hi, Jesus loves you. Like, I know, thanks, God bless you. They say God bless, they say God bless you, you're like, I didn't sneeze, like, what are you? But I was immediately, once again, in the same way that like that priest Father Andy, like his joy, his vibrancy was attractive to me. Like the joy that these kids had was also like, how are you like, I want what you have, and I went on a retreat, and I remember it was at Hiram House Camp, and beautiful, whatever, Chagrin Falls, I don't know where that is, where they still have all the Life Teen retreats. And I remember Saturday night we did adoration, and in that time having a very real and profound encounter with God. And it wasn't like just the emotional, music and all that. But it was really like, it had solidified for me that God is real. And I think prior to that moment, I had lived my life with the idea of maybe, like there could be a God, or like, this Jesus guy was like, I knew a lot about him. Like I grew up collecting baseball cards, and like, I can tell you the back of his card, like, born in Bethlehem, Nazareth, in his rookie year, he, did this, and the rookie of the year, and then, defeated sin and death, and was the MVP. And like, but like, I operated out of the fact that like, maybe, but encountering that, it was like, I think of the Pope Benedict quote, where he's like, being a Christian is not the result of some lofty moral choice or some ethical idea, but rather an encounter with a person and an event which gives our life a new meaning. And encountering that, it was like, I want to live for this. And I think the grace of my conversion, if you want to call it that, was that I never felt the desire that I had to be anyone other than myself. Because I was like Paul, like when I was the most wretched of sinners, he called me, and it wasn't wretched, maybe. But it was like, the experience of the love of God for me in that moment was like, this is where I am, and this is where you love me. I don't need to be anyone other than myself. And then it became this path of discovery of like, well, who am I? My favorite quote, John Paul II, my hero, he says, when you wonder about the mystery of yourself, look to Christ who gives you the meaning of life. That led me on a path of like discovery of self, not just looking to basketball or friends or what I was doing on the weekend to define who I was, but like, no, it's going to be you, Lord. So I started going to adoration. My parish has an adoration chapel. My way home from school or hanging out with friends, I would pop in there and pray. And, I wanted more. And along that path, like path of discovery and coming to know who I was, like the thought of seminary, the thought of priesthood was coming up, and I'm like, no. Like, I don't want to do that. And we had at our parish at the time, Father Ryan Mann was senior at Borromeo. He was helping out with the youth group. He would invite me up here to meet the seminarians, and like I met him, and I'm like, these guys are normal, like, and they want to be priests. Like, what's wrong with these guys? You know, like, and but I also knew, like, I know what my voice sounds like, and I want to do everything that I think of because they're great ideas. Like, oh yeah, it'd be great to do this. You know, like, oh yeah. But like, it was this persistent voice that wouldn't go away. Mm-hmm. And I also didn't want to do it. And I knew that was worth exploring. And so kind of like the break in me making this leap in some ways, or just taking a step, not always a leap, was I made the decision. It was Palm Sunday of my senior year. So like, that's late in the game, you know, that's April.
Yeah.
I remember talking with Father Andy, who like challenged me. He's like you're good at, you know, BSing, so to speak. If you haven't learned by this, how long have we been going? An hour, just me talking, and you're like, maybe we could talk about it. Like, he's like, you basically you can't BS God. You know what you need to do.
That's a good line.
You know, and so I'm like, all right, you know, and so I called the vocation director, who at the time, Father Mike Gurnick, was the parochial vicar in my home parish growing up, and he told me, like, when you called, I played the voicemail back like 10 times. I'm like, hey, Father, this is Eric Garris. He's like, let me play that back, because like, he knew me as the idiot 7th grader who would get called in the principal's office and then have to talk to the priest and then have to talk to my parents, then have to talk to the principal. Like, there was this constant rotation of like life, you know, of whatever, breaking something at the school, or I don't know, being a 7th grade boy. But just talking to him. And so when I applied, I was kind of hoping not to get in, because then the question would be answered, am I called to be a priest? No, because you have to go to the seminary. But I did get in, and when I got here, I was hoping I'd be miserable, because I didn't know a lot about God, but I knew that God wanted me to be happy. Mm-hmm. And I knew that like my vocation and discovering my vocation would lead to my happiness. I wasn't miserable. Like I was happy, you know? Mm-hmm. And I will say that like, when I entered, I never thought that I would be ordained. Mm-hmm. I knew that God was calling me to look at this deeper. But I didn't know where that was going to take me. And I thought, well, maybe I'll give it a couple years and teach, or maybe I'll give it a couple years. But like more and more each and every year, it was like, not just this is what God wants me to do, but realizing this is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And that God's will was not in like competition or conflict with mine, but like what was going to lead to my flourishing was going to do the thing that God wanted me to do. And the thing that I wanted to do was the thing that God wanted me to do, which was like, all right, I want this, mm-hmm. you know, this is what you want, and this is what I want. This is what the church wants, you know, too, because it's not just me saying I want this, but having that to be ratified within the church. Yeah. So I really did. I took it a year at a time, and then you kind of reach a point, you're like, this is it. You know, mm-hmm. I'm sure for you guys, like mm-hmm. you date each other, you get to know each other. At a certain point, you're like, yeah, this is it. You know, like, you know, like there's this point of like, it's not just peace, but it's like excitement and joy, mm-hmm. and probably some sense of fear, but like having that all alleviated just by the reality of what the situation is and what the Lord's calling you to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What did the people around you think? What did your parents think? Friends?
Yeah. So, parents will start. So when I came home that day from, you know, Palm Sunday, the next day, I've looked this up. I guess it would have been March, because the next day was St. Patrick's Day, and at Lake Catholic we didn't have school because they knew that no one was going to go to school anyway. Mm-hmm. Go to the parade and whatever. So I remember coming home and my mom and dad being like, you know, we need to talk to you. And I'm like, oh gosh, what'd you find out that I did that you weren't supposed to, you know, like, and they're like, we need to talk about your future. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to the seminary. I'll talk to you later. Just like left. Mic drop. And I think at first it did come as a surprise to them in some ways. I mean, they knew I was going to youth group and different things, and I think they were a little bit concerned. I'm prone to fits of extreme, like all or nothing, you know, and I think they thought like it's a fad, it's something that's going to grow out of. I think also too, like they were kind of like my mom knew priests, you know, and she saw, because her mom was working at the rectory, and you see the whole spectrum, you know, of people, and I think she was afraid that I was going to be lonely. I think there were some fears there, but over time, like more and more as I grew into this, so did their comfortability with it. So I mentioned, you know, my dad's situation with his health, and he died, it was 10 years ago, but like 7 years into my time in seminary. And I used to make me upset that like, oh, my dad's never going to see me as a priest, you know, like, but I remember like the one time he died in December, and it was November, and I was home for like Thanksgiving break. And I mean, my mom lives 5 minutes up the road from here. And, like my dad, he's like, why aren't you going back? Like, don't you normally leave by like 6:30, you know, to go back to school? I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to, you know, like I'm going to leave, and this is too hard. And cause I was driving home, and I was taking care of my dad and doing all this stuff. And, it was just a funny thing, cause my dad's like, you're going to quit cause it's hard. I'm like, yeah. He's like, do you think that you're going to be a priest? I'm like, yeah, I think so. He's like, so the place you need to go to be a priest, you're not going to go to anymore? I'm like, no. He's like, does that make sense? I'm like, no. He's like, all right, I'll see you later. You know, so like there was a support there. And now like my mom, I mean, obviously she loves me. She supports me. She loves my brother. She loves my sister. Like, it's always funny. People are like, you know, how's your son doing, to my mom? And she's like, which one? Oh, you have two? Are they both like Father Eric? And she's like, no, thank God. You know, like, but, they're supportive. It's fun now being a priest to my family, or for my family. And some, like, I've buried grandparents, and I've baptized, you know, nieces and nephews, and had weddings for cousins. So that's fun. My friends initially, like, I didn't lie to them, but I didn't tell them the fullness of the truth, because they would be like, hey, what are you doing next year? And I'd be like, oh, I'm going to John Carroll. Not a lie. Because the seminarians at Borromeo go to John Carroll. They're like, oh, well, are you going to live on campus? No, I'm going to live off campus. Not a lie. You know, the seminary's off campus. Well, where are you going to live? Like Wycliffe, Willoughby Hills. Like, we're like, not a lie. Or you know, so like, I'm like, well, are you going to live with your mom? No, I'm going to live somewhere else. It was like this whole, I think they were shocked by it. And it was weird too, because like, I don't know, they just weren't used to it. And I think over time, like, I mean, some of my relationships with those people have kind of fallen aside just because life happens. But like, then I became meeting guys here, and like letting this become my support, you know? So, you know, it's always funny now, like running into people I grew up with, because they know, you know, and like, it's like, hey, it's crazy. I'm like, yeah, crazy. See you later. You know, like, what do you say to that, you know? Or it's funny because then people also have like a different type of memory. So like, I go back to Lake Catholic. I have masses there. I was suspended twice in high school for being an idiot, but they're like, oh, we loved you and you were here. You were so great. You were such a great student. And we knew. I'm like, no, you didn't. I didn't know. Like, you knew that when you were suspending me, that I was going to be ordained. Both times. You're like, oh, we're going to suspend you for being. But we know one day. But we know one day you're going to be great. It's like, no, you didn't.
Oh my God.
No one knew. Like, God knew, and eventually I came to know. But like, you probably were hoping that I, like, oh, we just hope he, you know, finds his way. You know.
Oh my gosh, what'd you get suspended for? Twice.
Which time? So the first time was swearing in math class. That was the first time. I was So I tested into like honors, but I didn't want to do it because that required me to have to work. So I figured I'm smart enough to be in honors, but why take a hard class if you can take an easy one and just get the same grade? So in math, I would, first year, Algebra 1, I would just do my homework for the next day in class and then goof off for the next 35 minutes. Like, all right, I'm done. And I didn't do the back, and my teacher called me like she hated the fact that like you did, like that I was in that class. And yeah, so she's like, did you do the back? I'm like, turned it over and said something that I shouldn't have. Got called in, suspended. At the time, I was also freshman class president, and I was kicked out because I was suspended. So impeached. It was full, but not by a trial of my peers, but by the dean of discipline, who's like, you're suspended and you're also no longer, okay, whatever, less work. And then my senior year, let's think of how to describe this best. It was right when like Facebook had started, and someone created an anti-NDCL Facebook page. And so we populated that with things that weren't good and holy and true. And so I got suspended for that. First person to be suspended at Lake Catholic due to misuse of social media. Now it's like a daily occurrence. But I was a trailblazer in 2008. And the funny thing was, I found, actually, today's the March for Life, right? I was on the March for Life with Father Andy Turner with our youth group, and I got a call from my principal, like, when you come back, you're going to be suspended.
Oh my gosh.
And then I remember like sitting there, and Father Andy's like, there's consequences to our actions and all
that whole talk.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You were suspended too?
No, I was never suspended.
Oh, that's too bad. No. It's fun.
It is?
Yeah, there's
you have to go home?
No, in school.
Oh, in school suspension.
Yeah, which
yikes.
I remember there was what do they call it? C4, whatever the room was. And then like the dean of discipline, his room was right outside, and they had a two-way glass, and like you looking at it, and you're like waving, You're like, is anyone back there? And he yelled, he's like, stop waving at me. I'm like, all right, fine. What am I supposed to do? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I'd be dead if I ever got suspended. I was called to the principal's office a couple times, but it was never for something bad. It was like for something that was good. It's like, oh, you're student of the month this month. But it's like, I'm called to the principal's office. Like, I don't know what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I was a goody two shoes in school.
So when we would get called down in grade school, I know you said it's live. I'm just going to go for it. You can edit this out.
It's risky.
No, there were 5 of us who would always get called down, and because we were the same buddies. Yeah. And we would always go in the same order. The first guy would go in, and he would kind of like figure out what they were accusing us of, and like lay the groundwork of our defense. And he became an Army Ranger, and then the next guy would go in and kind of like pick up where he had left off, just kind of intuitively knowing. And he was like a Marine infantryman, the third guy would go in and like blow it up and play the victim card and all this. And he makes world-class, we'll call them smoking devices, paraphernalia, like champion glass man. Yeah. And then I would go in and kind of figure things out, smooth it over, priest. The last guy would go in and have no idea what was going on.
Mess up the whole thing.
No, he's a city maintenance worker. Yeah, so it's just kind of like a funny. All of those are good occupations to have. Well, not all of them. The third one probably not the best occupation to have, but yeah, yeah, it's just funny how those things kind of happen.
So vicar for evangelist, or not for evangelist, for vicar for vocations, is that?
Vocation director.
Vocation director.
Yeah.
What even is vicar?
So vicar is servant. So like, it's a confusing thing. in the Diocese of Cleveland, we have secretariats, not like the horse.
I was gonna say like a horse.
No, like we have. They're essentially offices.
Okay.
So you have the office for clergy and religious. So Father Joe Mamich is the vicar for clergy. Okay, vicar is servant, but also servant of the clergy. Father Don Alexiak is the vicar general, servant of all things general. Father Damien Ference is the vicar for evangelization, but my office is under the vicar for clergy. So as vocation director, I report to Father Mamich in my role. But it's also confusing because we have the seminary vocation office, which is there to facilitate the onboarding of new seminarians. And there's a whole process of that with me, journeying with the candidate and admissions interviews and psychological evaluations and, letters of recommendation. And so it's a pretty thorough process of bringing guys into the seminary. Mm-hmm. Then there's the diocesan vocation office, which serves more the general vocation promotion of religious and different things. So I'm in charge of both, and they all kind of come together in what I do. So, there's administrative stuff, and my office runs a lot of different events. So like the Bishop's Brunch, which is the big seminary fundraiser, we run that. Once a month, we're doing these things called R&R, which is receive and remain, or remain and receive here at the seminary, 6:45 adoration that flows into Mass at 7:30. Just different stuff. Mm-hmm. Come and see weekends and guys coming up here for visits and different things. So a lot of what I'm doing is both like personal with people, but also event kind of oriented. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm the director of these offices that serve these purposes in this diocese.
Okay.
Every diocese has a vocation director. Mm-hmm. So, and once a year, we all get together, there's the vocation director conference, and you get to know these guys. And also it's helpful because in a parish, I can call another priest who's also in a parish and ask them hey, what do you do in this situation? Mm-hmm. There are some particularities to vocation ministry where you're hey, I'm working with this guy. What would you recommend? So I call the vocation director from, Tampa. I call the guy from Toledo. Just different people who you can kind of go to.
Yeah.
So. Mm-hmm. Do people last long in vocation director? Because I heard that Father Mike McCandless is the second longest vocation director. Yeah.
So he was vocation director for 12 years, which is long, mm-hmm. And it's not that, and I don't know what, I think it's important to have time, because what I found in moving into this role, I spent the first 6 months, 8 months to a year, just building relationship with people, because there's vocation events that we run, mm-hmm. and then there's vocation adjacent events that other people run that are also just kind of by the nature of them vocational. So that's youth group retreats, that's the mm-hmm. Diocesan Youth Conference, that's NCYC, that's all these things that give young people an understanding of the church. So I try to know those people and build relationships with them, and also just comfortability. Father Mike had been here for 12 years, so everyone knew him and everyone knew, but for people to get to know me, because we stand down the river from so many other ministries that when, COVID was going on and youth groups were shut down, well, then that river's not flowing in the same way, mm-hmm. So it's being, and it's kind of people recommending, priests saying, why don't you call Father Eric, youth ministers and different people. So it's building those relationships. And it takes time to do that. So, I really, as a parochial vicar, servant of the parish, back to the question about vicar, mm-hmm. I knew that I had a 4-year assignment. In this ministry, special ministry, outside of parishes, I have no idea. how long I'll be here. That's kind of the fun thing about being a priest is like, yeah, whatever. You know, like, I don't know. I got great job security, you know, and I'm not like just banking on that, but it's, I really do view, you know, it's a docility to, okay, this is the church that you've said that you're going to lay down your life for and love has expectations of you and desires that you serve her in a particular way. So I trust that. And that's what I think and hope I'm doing in this role.
Yeah.
Do you have any say in, like, they call them assignments?
Right.
So do you have a say or like hey, maybe like, could you assign me over there type of thing?
Yes and no. I mean, they work with you. So like when I entered into this, you know, I got a call from the bishop's secretary that the bishop would like to meet with you and you're not in trouble. And I'm like, oh gosh, you know, and he had said,
The principal's office again.
Yes. I'm like, oh, God, I'm used to this, you know, but he had said to me, you know, I'm appointing you as vocation director. And I don't remember if I'm like, okay, you know, like, but it's not really a say. When guys become pastors, most of the time, at least the way that the process works now in the diocese, is that we receive an email saying that this place is now open and you can apply. So you kind of put your name in there that like, I would like to go here. And it's situational. Like, you know, some guys are like, I'd like to go here because I'd like to be closer to my family because they're aging or what have you. So they work with you. Obviously if you're miserable, you know, in where you are, or there's difficulties or just circumstances, like, yeah, okay, we'll move on, and you know, hopefully this better serves you.
Yeah. That's good, so that you're not stuck somewhere. It's like, I'm not happy and I'm not close to my family and there's nothing I can do and I just have to grow old and be miserable here. Right.
Yeah. That's not what we want for priests. Like, grow old, be miserable. God bless. That's going to be a clip right there. We don't want that.
Don't take it out of context.
Yeah.
Noted.
Well, speaking about clipping stuff for social media, how do you, like, you have an Instagram.
Sure.
You're on social media, and I find it extremely difficult to find any priest email. Like, I don't know where they are. Like, I called here to, actually, it was Father Andy. And like, I can't not find anybody's email anywhere. Not on the diocesan website. There's some emails on the Borromeo website.
Yeah.
But
so hard to get a hold of you guys.
I think I'm everywhere kind of. Email. So there's the diocesan directory, which on the diocese website, and I know that now, as vocation director, my email is much more public on the diocesan website, and I know that because I get way more spam emails than I ever have before, and it's like, we want you to use our HR service. We want, like, ones that I'm not normally getting. Yeah. But then also as vocation director, I get a lot of, probably 4 to 5 a week, emails of candidates, individuals from outside of the U.S. who want to enter the seminary or enter the Diocese of Cleveland. And we
outside the U.S.
Yeah, a lot from Africa, and mostly I get a lot of like emails from African men who are either in seminary or what, because, you know, in the diocese we have a partnership with Daegu, South Korea. So the guys come here, but like, we've established relationships with other dioceses, and it's not just like, oh, you want to be a seminary, like we want you to know Cleveland, you know. So I have just a standard email about that I reply, but I'm on social media. I'm a millennial, you know, so like I grew up with MySpace and Facebook and stuff like that. So
you were a trailblazer.
I was a trailblazer in the social media community. But I also, like, I know that that's where people are, you know, and it can be used, like, I use it in different ways. Obviously the vocation office has CLE priesthood, is run by Maggie, whose office is right outside here, and my office. So like, we use it to promote events, and we use it to the vocation office one, like say what's going on in the seminary, if there's things that are going on that the guys are doing, to put it up there. Personally, I use it, I don't know, just to maybe give a snapshot of what my life looks like. You know, people, it's the danger of social media, is that like it's a projection of self, you know, you're like, is this, you know, so,
Yeah.
you know, it's me with my family, it's me at a game, like it's me, you know. So it's always trying to know what and how and when and where. And you're a public figure. Like, I know that, like, yeah. So I have to be aware, you know, what is the image of self that I'm projecting in person, in conversation, but also online, and having appropriate boundaries, and, you know, all of that stuff is important too. But you got to look harder, man. You got to get the secret code. Actually, you have to, once you figure out the code, you've figured it out. I'm not going to share what the code is for priest emails in the diocese, but it's pretty easy.
I think I know what it is.
Yeah.
We could talk after.
We could talk after, off camera. The story, the podcast behind the podcast.
But I think you're talking about sharing just like regular life stuff on social media is huge, because then it goes back to the human aspect of priesthood, and like you're more approachable instead of like that guy that's over there.
Yeah, I agree. You know, and I remember it's funny, like you know, as vocation director, I don't have a weekend parish assignment, so I'm usually a couple places on the weekend. So like this weekend, I'll be in Fairlawn and Hudson for masses. And, you know, the cool thing about the Diocese of Cleveland is that because our formation and training takes place here, you get to know people from all over. So like St. Hilary's, I did my internship at, you know, I know people at St. Mary's. And so you kind of know people everywhere.
Yeah. And I've also been assigned to different places, and now my ministry puts me in contact with people all over, you know. And I always love, like, some people are like, you know, Father, we follow you on fill in the blank. We wish you would post more. We love your posts. I'm like, thank you. Like, you know, I don't know what to say, or like, it's like, you know, Father, I follow you on Instagram, or I'm your Facebook friend. I'm like, oh, cool. That's great. You know, like, I don't know what that means, but like, I'm glad. Thank you. Do you like my, like, you know, it's not that I'm doing it to garner likes, but like, I think it is to put an image of priesthood out there. And so it's me doing what I do. You know, doing what me does.
It's me being me, you know. You be you.
You said you were friends with Father Jacob Bearer.
Oh yeah.
Were you at the conversation that he declared that he does not believe in dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Did he make you the hat that said?
No, I was there for that. I was there when he bought the hat. It was with Father Patrick Schultz. There was a group of us, and you know, you get to be close with each other, and you know, we were all hanging out. We're on vacation, and he dropped that bombshell that he didn't believe in dinosaurs. And the best part was, I remember the other priest like was not mad that he didn't believe in dinosaurs, because it's believable that he doesn't believe in dinosaurs. But like he was upset at himself. He's like, I can't believe that I have a friend who doesn't believe in dinosaurs. So his frustration was more like, what's wrong with me that I'm friends with you? And then I remember we went to, it was a restaurant in Parma. I forget the name of it, like Corleone's or something. And next to it was a Dollar General. So Father Jacob went in there and he bought like a plain black hat with like white fabric and wrote on it, dinosaur. What was it? Dinosaurs aren't real, or I forget. It was something. Yeah, I was there for that conference. I was there, very much there.
Have you gotten, like, do you get weird questions like that as a priest? Like, what's a weird question that you're like, I don't know how to answer that?
I don't know. Like I would try. So when I was in the parish, both St. Gabriel and St. Raphael, I welcome the kids every morning. Talk about, back to fatherhood. Like, I wanted them to see me and know me and let them know that I love them, and I want to be present to them. But I would have to walk through the school to get to the rectory. So I was in and out of the classrooms all the time, and I would teach and I would do Q&A and different stuff. You get a lot of weird questions about like animals in heaven. That's always the big one. And then you have to be careful because because like you're asking because you've had an experience of a dog dying, and you're like, okay, how do I answer this? That's always the big one. That's a big question.
What's the answer?
No. No, my response is always, why would we need dogs in heaven? So like, if heaven is us living in deep and abiding union with a God who is love for all eternity, then we don't need dogs. So like, what do dogs do? They provide us with some sense of comfort and companionship, and some people will say love, but like, all love points to that which is true love and the eternal love. So if I'm in the presence of God himself, who is love, I don't need a dog. I've got the real deal right there.
Yeah.
So, and this is someone, me, my first word was dog, and we never even had one. Yeah. And I grew up watching like so much 101 Dalmatians, 101 times a day. So much so that at one family dinner, I stood up and like made an announcement at like 5 years old, like a family, like Christmas. Like, I'd like everyone to know that I'd like to be referred to as Rolly from now on and no longer Eric. And Rolly was like my favorite character from 101 Dalmatians. He's the one who's like, I'm hungry, mother. I really am. So I don't remember that. I know that my cousins still like give me a lot of crap for that. And they're like, hey, Father Rolly, how are you? I just wonder like what my parents thought when like I stood up and like rang a glass. I was like, I have an announcement to make. They're like, oh gosh. And now they're like, and this is the guy you give microphones to? Like that, like this is the danger. Like this is not good.
Are there any questions that we haven't asked you that you think we should be asking you?
I don't know. No, this is like a job, like the end of a question of a job interview where it's like, so what question would you like us to ask you?
Have you ever been to jail?
No, actually, well, yeah, I did my fourth year of theology. I did jail ministry at Lake County Jail, met individually with inmates, and loved it. So I've been to jail in that regard. I lost it. I no longer have. I had like a badge. That was pretty cool.
You like pull it out, like, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What question would I like you to ask me? Spirit animal? Yeah, we haven't talked about that.
Ooh, I have one. You say the spirit animal, and then I got one for you.
What's my spirit animal?
Yeah, what is
probably like a golden retriever. like, hey, ball, play, go, lights, fun. Like peanut butter. Yeah.
Do you have any hidden talents?
Hidden talents. I can juggle. Yeah, I'm like weirdly flexible. So like.
Demonstrate.
Like
oh
foot
my
to,
God.
Foot to shoulder and like stretching and but that's like is this going to be the cover image? Yeah, I'm just like
that's impressive.
Yeah, that's it. Talents.
How'd you learn how to juggle? Is it just something you naturally were like?
I learned how to do it. So like playing basketball, when you're like putting in like offenses, like sets and stuff, like half the guys are working, half the guys are watching, and I can't sit still. Like I'm always, So I just started learning how to juggle basketballs.
Those are big.
Yeah. So once you do that, anything else is easy. There's
like a chainsaw, bowling pin.
We've got. I know that there's 2. So behind camera, we've got that putter over there, and so I putt from there to like there's a crack between the fridge. There might be. I'm gonna leave for a sec. Let me see if there's one or two. I don't know how many golf balls are there. Actually, here.
Make sure those aren't breakable. He's getting Christmas ornaments.
Ready?
There.
I got you.
It's hard to do it. Oh, these are glittery too. Do you see that? And they got hooks. This wasn't a good idea. But now look.
Okay, you got glitter everywhere.
Glitter everywhere, which is glitter. I think that if you send a greeting card with glitter in it, that's a mortal sin. It's grave matter. You know, now that you know, you have knowledge of the grave matter, and you do it anyway. It's mean. It gets everywhere. Yeah.
I think that's great to end it on.
Yeah, let's end on that. Well, I appreciate this, guys. I would say, if anyone's listening, part of
if anyone's listening,
whoever's listening, I mean, someone's listening. Whatever individuals, I think, particularly young adults, young people. It's not just we have a lot of questions about life, but like when it comes to how do I make this journey? What does the Lord call me to do? How does that's what I'm here for, to support people on that journey. So if you're listening, you've got vocational quandaries and just want someone to kind of chat with and journey with, HMU, hit me up. If you know how to find me. But
with
it's
the secret code.
Yeah. Garris at dioceseofcleveland.org. Fine. What am I at? Father Garris, FATHER.
Yeah, add the handle on there.
Yeah, it's all spelled out. I've got these great these are cool. I've got these contact cards that I give to people with my QR code that scans it right in.
There you go.
Vocation office events in the back. So, yeah. Thank you.